All right. Well, we got the conclusion with Dylan Dance. I'm just curious, do you think this is the end of the UFC 229 post-melee incident? I mean, are we done with it at this point, or are there potentially more disciplinary complaints to be filed?
There may be some additional things that we're looking at, but a lot of them are jurisdictional issues. I think, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, but everybody in UFC 229 that was in our jurisdiction, are we through that now?
No, we still have a couple more respondents to address.
Are you able to reveal who those are?
Currently, we're taking a look at Magomedov, Rizvan, as well as Azdullah, and maybe some others before we're completed.
Fair enough. Appreciate that. Khabib has come out in the media and said that he's not interested in doing the PSA and he's not going to deal with it. Has that been officially conveyed to you at all? And do you have any thoughts on him saying that he's not interested in doing the PSA?
My thoughts are he agreed to a settlement agreement, he signed it, and then a day later he said he's not interested in it. He might be interested in it. I don't know. I can't really comment what's going through his mind and what he says and what he does. So I know that his attorney and him agreed to a settlement agreement, and we have that executed, and he can live to it or not. It's up to him.
He says he doesn't want to fight in Nevada anymore. I mean, knowing that, does it give you pause or make you reconsider, the settlement? Was it too steep or was it unfair? Knowing that he says he doesn't want to fight here anymore?
No.
Fair enough. The only other question I had for you was, at the last meeting you mentioned that the commission wants to take a look at these pre-fight trash talk, the build-up, the behaviors. I'm just curious because there was some blowback on that. People saying, "Man, this is a First Amendment issue. You can't do this." Have you had any further thought on that or any further development on that particular instance?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but it is a privilege license. It's not a right. It's a privilege, and privilege licenses come with different rules, different conditions that fighters have to live by, or all athletes. I would just ask all those people if somebody used that kind of language in an NFL post conference, what they think the NFL would do. What do you think MLB would do? What would the NBA do? I know what they would do because they've done it. It doesn't happen in those sports because, he's in baseball, even criticizing an umpire for a poor night can get you a fine. So I don't know if the freedom of speech argument works or works inside of, regulated sporting environments. So again, I'm not a lawyer on that. I know, Bob, you're not a lawyer, are you?
No.
We don't do that work, but I think that our goal though is to just maybe raise the professionalism a little bit, and I think that these things can get escalated to a place where they get uncomfortable for fans. They're bad for the sport. I know that there's obviously Dana doesn't agree with that, and Dana is certainly entitled to his own opinions. We got a lot of respect for Dana, and those are things that we'll work through as we get closer to addressing that issue.
I think the issue that you brought up is the NBA is a private entity, NFL is a private entity. So if the UFC decide to take it up, that's one thing, but I guess people's question is, it's your government.
Yeah, I think the UFC has already taken it up. I think the UFC has a code of conduct policy. I think that there are very clear guidelines in that code of conduct policy that go right down the track of what I'm talking about. So where it's a private entity as well that has some regulation and some rules, and I think needs to take a little bit harder look at enforcing that. And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Just one from me about Dylan. So just to clarify, it was mostly his behaviour after his initial skirmish with Khabib was separated that you guys had an objection to. You said he made some gestures and...
That was my opinion on the record today. I mean, I think that the attorney looks at it different. Bob, I know, has his opinions on it. My opinions were, there's always fighters saying, come on over here, let's do this right now. They do that all the time, everywhere. I don't really think that it was the action and then the reaction. Like we said too about Conor. Conor had a lot of stuff leading up to this fight, but it was really the reaction that got Conor in trouble, not the pre-fight action. Per the conversation that we all just had. So,
I guess my only follow-up to that is, if Khabib had done the PSA, he could have fought in April, but Dylan's suspended till May. Does that not mean, you're almost saying Dylan's action is worse than Khabib's, jumping over and attacking him? It seems like 7 months is quite a long suspension for essentially some gestures that fighters do.
Yeah, I don't think you can line all these up and compare them. You have fighters, you have seconds, you have fans, you have fines in terms of term, but you also have fines in terms of dollars. And it's a, you know, it's a negotiation within a set of guidelines that the Attorney General is allowed to work within. So they can, you know, 1 month difference, I don't think is saying, well, if somebody got a harder suspension. I guess if Dylan wanted to fight in 6 months and pay Khabib's fine, he could do that too. You know, so, you know, you're talking about what, $7,500 versus 500. So there's a lot of moving parts in that discussion, and I don't think it's all linear, and you could just line it up and say whether it was evenly given out or not. So.
And we take a lot of time and effort with the Deputy Attorney General to work with the councils representing, such as Mike Mersch and other attorneys, and coming to a settlement agreement where we think it's a fair and equitable agreement that we come to for both parties. And probably most importantly, the octagon is made for the fighters to fight inside, not outside the fight. And of course, we're talking about the 1 to 5% of the fighters, not most of the fighters.
And I think it's important to note that these were not adjudications or hearings where fighters were present, represented, and argued with where the commission was going. They negotiated this with their own attorneys, very well-paid, high-powered attorneys, and agreed to it and signed it. So to afterwards say, you know, I'm not interested in living up to this, you guys can take that for whatever it's worth. I don't know. I really don't have any comment on that. It is what it is.
Just one other point with bullying. The reason why we're very much interested as a commission under bullying, if you look in the state of Nevada as well as states around the country, bullying is a major issue. It has nothing to do with exactly what took place in the octagon. It has to do with a professional fighter giving his or her time to the community where the boys and girls are subjected to being bullied. And we look to them for their assistance to help. For instance, here for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, bullying is a significant challenge for them. So we're looking for the athletes to assist, and it's a win-win situation for the commission and for the promoter and the athlete.
We've never had a fighter agree to a PSA and then not want to do it. You know, it's a positive thing. It's a past practice the commission's used in a number of different, you know, let's call it misconduct situations. And to not want to do that, you know, I mean, again, that's up to the fighter, but it's, especially after you agreed to it, but it's a good thing to do. It's good for kids, it's good for communities, it's good for schools. It was a good thing to do. So, anyway, I don't know what changed his mind in 24 hours. It wasn't even that long. It was 5 hours later or whatever the tweet came out, and that's okay. I mean, he's got the right to do that, and we gave him 2 options, and he can take the path he would like to take.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate the time. Yeah.
Thank you.